The F88 Austeyr rifle is one of the new generation of weapons utilising the latest in thermoplastic technology. Because this rifle is significantly different to the traditional wood and metal weapons, the care and maintenance of it requires a different approach and some special observations. Firstly, the cleaning of the weapon. These cleaning procedures are designed to maintain an Austeyr in a fully operational state at all times and under all conditions. There are 3 general rules to observe about cleaning the steyr. It is safe to clean the weapon in water, under no circumstances use abrasives such as steel wool on the weapon, and an excess of oil can affect some of the moving plastic parts in the weapon. A weapon caked in mud, dust or oil must first be prepared before the normal daily cleaning can take place. The best way to do this is to rinse or scrub the weapon in the nearest available water source. Warm, soapy water may be needed to remove an excess of oil. The weapon must then be stripped and dried. The following procedure is to be performed every day in the normal cleaning of the weapon. Additional cleaning will be required under certain circumstances and during certain climatic conditions and will be discussed later. The exterior of the barrel should be brushed free of dirt and carbon deposits using the double-ended bristle brush. Working from the muzzle to the chamber end, pay particular attention to the grooves in the flash suppressor and the locking lugs at the chamber end. Once clean, wipe the exterior of the barrel over with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette, again working in the same direction from muzzle to chamber end. Excess oil has an adverse effect on this weapon, so when a cleaning reference is made to a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette, it calls for 5 to 8 drops of oil, no more. The chamber is cleaned using the chamber brush attached to the cleaning rod and wiped dry using a piece of service flannelette. The chamber brush is also to be used to remove heavy fouling from the gas system. If necessary, small amounts of CLP can be applied to remove carbon deposits. Wipe out the cylinder with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. Under no circumstances are any forms of abrasive or mechanical cleaning to be used to clean any part of the gas system. Carbon deposits on the piston and gas cylinder can be removed by soaking in CLP and wiping off the residue with service flannelette. Some staining may remain on the chrome surfaces but will have no detrimental effect on the weapon. Before reassembly, place 1 drop of oil on the piston face. Apply 1 drop of oil to the dovetail and rivet of the gas plug and cycle the action 3 or 4 times to ensure its penetration and smooth operation. Then remove any excess oil. The hand grip is to be wiped clean and then 1 drop of oil applied to the pivot area. Cycle the action 3 or 4 times to ensure a smooth operation and proper penetration. Then wipe off any excess oil. The bore is hard chromed and therefore requires little cleaning. As the barrel ages, the rifling will wear. This will appear as a dark staining. Take the cleaning rod and drop it through the barrel from the muzzle end and attach a dry piece of flannelette to the swab holder. Pull the flannelette through the bore with a smooth motion. Repeat this several times, turning the flannelette or changing it as necessary. Examine the barrel by holding it up towards the light with the muzzle about 150 millimeters from your eye. If any fouling remains, remove it by using the wire bore brush attached to the cleaning rod and dipped in CLP. This is to be done sparingly and only when necessary. When the bore is clean, add 2 drops of oil to the flannel and pull it through the barrel once. This will coat the barrel and prevent any rust forming where the chrome may have lifted. Re-examine the barrel by holding it up to the light and keeping both eyes open, follow the lands and grooves through their length. Wipe the bolt free from oil and grease using a clean piece of service flannelette. With the double-ended bristle brush, clean the lugs and bolt face. It is important that the bolt face is left free of oil. Likewise, wipe clean the locking slide and bolt spring. Treat the firing pin in a similar fashion. The guide rods and bolt carrier are also to be wiped clean. When clean, the body of the bolt carrier can be wiped over with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. No oil is to be applied to the cocking track on the underside of the bolt carrier. Once reassembled, lubricate the bolt carrier by applying 1 drop of oil to the front of the cam pin and 1 drop of oil to the rear of the cam pin. Then place 1 small drop of oil on the roller and wipe off the excess oil. Wipe over the guide rods with a piece of lightly oiled service flannelette. It is important that no oil is applied to the return springs through the rear of the guide rods. The butt assembly may be washed in water if available. Otherwise, wipe clean the internal cavity and then wipe over the return spring rods with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. Likewise, wipe the pin retaining and rear sling swivel as well as the metal lock tabs on the butt plate with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. Wherever possible, the trigger mechanism should be washed in warm soapy water to remove oil and grime. Otherwise, tap the mechanism gently to remove any loose material. Work the slide backwards and forwards several times as you apply the graphite powder to the underside of the trigger mechanism. Turn the mechanism over and apply graphite powder to the top of the slide rails and the 2 bents on the hammer that engages the disconnect. Cycle the trigger mechanism by holding the disconnect to the rear with the forefinger of the left hand and trip the automatic fire lever with the thumb of the right. Then release the disconnect slowly. Repeat this to ensure that the mating surfaces have been embedded with the powder. Then release the hammer. Empty the excess graphite powder out. Under no circumstances should any oil or mineral-based cleaning solution be applied to any part of the trigger mechanism. Remove surface dirt and dust from the body of the receiver with a double-ended bristle brush, particularly around the barrel locking stud and the bush barrel locking. Then with a clean swab, remove all of the dirt and oil residue from the inside of the guideways and the cocking handle track. With a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette, wipe both faces of the receiver body, particularly inside the bush barrel locking. Then apply 1 or 2 drops to the cocking handle track. If water is available, first wash the lenses of the optic sight. Otherwise, roll a piece of clean, dry flannelette into a cone shape and, with a circular movement on the lens surface, move the grit to the outside of the lens whilst polishing it at the same time. Every attempt should be made to use clean, soft materials for cleaning the optics, otherwise scratching of the lens surface will result. Wipe the adjusting screws with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. If light corrosion is present, use the brass bore cleaning brush dipped in CLP to remove it. That concludes the normal daily cleaning procedure for the Austeyr. The weapon is now to be reassembled and actioned through several times to aid the penetration of the lubricants and ensure the correct function of the weapon. To do this, cock the weapon, check the operation of the safety catch, check the function of the trigger for a single shot, hold the trigger to the rear and recock the weapon, release the trigger and an audible click should be heard. Pull the trigger fully to the rear and cock the weapon to assimilate auto fire. Release the trigger, this time no noise should be heard, and apply the safety catch. As required, several other rifle parts are to be cleaned and lubricated to ensure their proper service life. The magazine is to be disassembled and washed in warm soapy water where available and then dried. Otherwise, brush or wipe clean the interior and exterior of the casing and wipe the spring with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. Also as required, the trigger button, the barrel locking stud, the front sling swivel and the rear sling swivel are each to receive 1 drop of oil exercised into their movement. The excess oil must be wiped off. Dependent on the conditions under which the Austeyr is operated, extra cleaning procedures may be necessary. In tropical or wet conditions, perform the normal daily cleaning routine more frequently. Extra applications of oil may be required on the external metal components. While water flowing through or over the weapon is not a problem, water allowed to accumulate in the bore of the weapon may cause a breech explosion during firing. To prevent this, ensure that either the muzzle cap is fitted or that the weapon is carried muzzle down. If neither is practical, unload and point the muzzle downwards and shake the weapon to clear the water. In dry and dusty conditions, clean the rifle as normal, but keep the weapon oil-free. A light coating of graphite powder can be used as a lubricant on the working parts and trigger mechanism. In extreme conditions, set the gas regulator to the adverse gas setting. Special care should be taken when cleaning the lens of the optic sight not to rub grit or any other abrasive materials onto the glass. For sub-zero temperatures, clean all the oil from the weapon and set the gas regulator to the adverse setting. For extremely hot conditions, maintain the normal daily cleaning regime. If the weapon has come into contact with salt water, strip the weapon as soon as practicable and wash it thoroughly with fresh water and then dry. Additional applications of oil may be required on some of the external components to prevent rust. If continual exposure to salt water is expected, a small amount of marine grease can be substituted for CLP and wiped over the bare metal parts. The return springs will also require stripping, cleaning and recoating with Loctite anti-seize on a regular basis this is to be done by an armourer only. Clean the combat knife blade and handle with warm soapy water where available. When dry, wipe over the blade with a lightly oiled piece of service flannelette. The blank firing attachment is cleaned by screwing it in and out of the flash suppressor several times. This not only removes the carbon build-up on the internal threads of the flash suppressor, but also on the external threads of the BFA. Once clean, 1 drop of oil can be applied to the thread of the BFA, screwed in and out of the flash suppressor, and the excess oil wiped off. This will help prevent rusting. The service sling should be cleaned regularly by washing in warm soapy water, rinsing clean and drying. The drill sling is made of a black nylon material and should only be used on drill occasions. Should it become dirty, it's to be cleaned in the same manner as the service sling. The Austeyr is designed to provide you with a safe, strong, accurate and reliable weapon. It is made from strong thermoplastic material and metal alloys to minimize its weight and make its all-day, everyday employment more comfortable. Its design and construction has exceeded all the Australian Army's requirements, but some aspects of its employment have created concern that the weapon is not being operated within its specifications. Special care is needed to understand these limitations and work within them. The combat knife, when operating as a bayonet, is not designed to engage hard or semi-hard targets. Therefore, a steel-belted radial does not make a good target, and neither does a tree. Soft targets only are recommended. The cocking handle stands out from the receiver group and is therefore vulnerable to impact, particularly on obstacles such as walls when the rifle is used as momentum to vault the wall. It is desirable for the cocking handle to break before the receiver is damaged. Likewise, when the weapon is dropped on the ground or trodden on by the soldier, the cocking handle provides the point of least resistance. Reasonable care and common sense should help avoid this problem. The forward bolt assist button is a commonly misunderstood part of the weapon. When the bolt jams, instead of pulling the bolt all the way back and ejecting the round, simply take the weight off the action and press the button down. The bolt will then ease forward into the correct position. This is also good for the silent cocking of the weapon. The Austeyr is not a machine gun and should not be operated as such. It is a versatile individual weapon with an automatic fire facility. When using this function, it is imperative that you stay within the rate of fire specifications to protect the weapon against permanent damage. The F88 Austeyr is part of the new generation of weapons being employed by the Army. It is a lightweight, accurate, reliable and versatile weapon, suitable for any battle condition. Its proper care and maintenance is extremely important. A correctly and routinely maintained weapon will guarantee good reliability and performance when you need it most.